we can activate the landscape. At least this is what I understood you to say.
We can help the world to become alive. Yeah.
I don't understand about the landscape being sleeping.
No, I know. I know.
Can you explain that a little more?
Probably not.
Is that your experience, or is that a Sufi teaching?
No. It's just my experience. I guess it comes from something I have been shown, which is there is a possibility at this time in cosmic evolution for the world to wake up. For just as a human soul can wake up, and then the life changes from what I call the difference in existence to being alive, that there is the possibility for the heart of the world to wake up, for the world to wake up. You see, I suppose I should put a context into this. There is a tradition that the world is a spiritual being. In some cultures it's called the Gaia theory, that in Sufism it is explained that the individual is a microcosm of the whole. They say that we are the lesser atom and the world is the greater atom. Now, a human being, as you know, is a quite extraordinarily beautiful, multi-dimensional being. We can exist on many different levels of reality. We can exist physically, mentally, emotionally. We can also exist even live on the plane of the self, which is a very different reality of just different experience. And that just as we are, so is the world. What this means is just as a human being has the potential to wake up, and as I said, many of you are here because something in you has woken up, otherwise why would you be spending your Saturday afternoon here when there are so many other delightful things to do? That the world itself has the potential to wake up. This could be quite an extraordinary, unbelievably extraordinary thing. Just as you know from your own shift in consciousness and your shift in evolution from when you existed purely on the plane of the ego and the mind, to when this other light in you woke up and you began to see a very different horizon, a very different life that has many other qualities. There is a tradition, long ago the world was awake, and they call it the Garden of Eden or the Golden Age. It was very beautiful, life was very simple, life was very pure, and the divine was experienced consciously as part of life. It's described in the Bible, I think, as when Adam and Eve saw God in the Garden of Eden. The relationship between the divine and individual consciousness was completely out there in the open. And then certain things happened and life moved on and we are here today. And so there is this potential for the world to wake up, for the world to make this shift in cosmic evolution. And part of this oneness, you see, what is very interesting is from a mystical perspective, oneness is a basic mystical experience. I call it Mysticism 101. And you know that everything is one. Many people have it, whether just looking up at a starry sky at night, or suddenly in the bath, or hearing a bird sing, or whatever. You know, Blake says to see the world in a grain of sand. You suddenly know that everything is one. You experience it. It is not a concept, it is not an idea, it's of course, everything is one. How could it be otherwise? Now, spiritually, this is the reality on the plane of the self. When you wake up to yourself, when you wake up on that plane, which I believe is called enlightenment, that is a plane of oneness. It is not ruled by the same laws as duality. It is everything there. It works differently. For example, things relate not through their differences, but through their resonance, through their attraction to each other. There is no object and subject. It is human beings relate together very differently there. Now, what interests me is that the consciousness of oneness belongs to the plane of the self and basically to an awakened human being. And yet, this awareness, this consciousness is at this present moment being given to the whole of humanity. It is, whether, as I say, it's ecological or through the internet or whatever, you can see it. You don't have to be clairvoyant to see that there is the potential now for human beings to be aware that they are one, that the world is one, that everything is one. And one not just on a horizontal plane of we're all part of the same living ecosystem, but it's actually much more profound because it means all the different planes of reality are also one. The plane of the self and this physical existence come together and they interpenetrate. Now what this means is, just as a human being can wake up to the plane of oneness, so can the world. And it is a very, very special moment in the evolution of the world. There's a possibility that this could happen. And it will be then, I have been fortunate to be shown somewhere what this could mean. And I always say it's when the world begins to sing again. When the heart of the world opens and the world begins to sing again, it's incredibly beautiful. And that will resolve many, many of the problems which exist in our world today, because, as Adya just shared, they belong to consciousness based on duality. And if the world wakes up, then it will throw off many of the apparent problems that surround it, because the world is a very, very beautiful, very powerful, living spiritual being. And just as what is interesting is, we are brought up in this culture to believe that we have problems. We're a kind of problem-addicted culture, and as you grow up, apparently to be a teenager, you have to know that you have problems and to know your problems. That's what being a teenager is, you know your problems, and often the problems are in relationship to your parents. Now, when you awaken spiritually, you realize you don't have a problem, you never did have a problem, you can't have a problem. I always give the example, it's like in an aeroplane, up above the clouds, the sun is always shining. You go to a place in yourself and you realize, I remember when it happened to me, I realized, a human being can never have a problem. You can't. You're a divine piece of light and love, and you can't have a problem. You can have the illusion of a problem, yes, on the plane of the ego. On the plane of the self, problems do not exist. And one of the things that happens to you as you wake up is a lot of your apparent problems dissolve. And also you learn to live differently. As Adya said, you learn no longer to live from the point of duality. If you live from the point of oneness, then many, many problems just fall away. Now, if that can happen to an individual, I don't see any reason that an individual is this special thing. I think the individual is a microcosm of the whole, and the same can happen to the world. What I find sad is that we, in our arrogance, in this culture, have denied the world its divinity. And we think that the world is about us, rather than having a little bit of humility and saying, the world is the creation of the divine, maybe it is about the divine. And once you step into that state of consciousness, then everything changes in the most simple and the most fundamental way. And then I think we can participate consciously towards the waking up of the world, which is also our waking up, because we are part of the world. What is a minimalist?
That's the first question.
These are good questions.
It hits here and it's been going in my head all day. And so I wanted to ask you.
Mm-hmm. And the second question?
Second question I also heard you say was to walk in the world without interference.
Without?
Without doing interference.
without
It was